What's up, Ocean? You got Matt here, and welcome to episode 18 of our 30-part series on every single GMAX Pokemon. This is going to be your guide on how to use Gmax Machamp, one of the most slept-on Gmaxes in competitive Pokemon. As always, guys, I am not alone. I am joined by the most famous panda, Robert Panda, aka Almighty Panda. How's it going, man?
I'm doing good, Matt. How are you?
I am doing fantastic, because today we are about to talk about Gmax Machamp. If you guys are excited for another Gmax guide, then do me a favor and smash the like button. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy competitive Pokemon content. Now, Rob, what is your favorite thing about Gmax Machamp?
The coverage is really nice. It's nice to have a lot of different moves. You can get all the different buffs. And just to hit things harder, I would normally be able to switch in with those really powerful moves.
Its Movepool is really actually incredible. You mentioned it, but it basically has a move for every single situation. The only move that I look at it and wish it got, there's two of them. There's Drain Punch, which at the end of the day, when you're Gmax, you have Max Chi Strike, so not that big of a deal if you're running close combat, but I wish it had a flying move to run Max Airstream on. That would make it so much better, because then you can turn that base 55 speed into something a lot more respectable, to the point where only Choice Scarfers or really fast mons are going to outspeed it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, because that was like the one thing when I was looking through its coverage that I was kind of thinking it lacked. I was like, man, Max Airstream would be really useful in this thing, but it does get 11 coverage moves if I counted correctly, 11 types, so
that's plenty, tons more than most other Pokemon that I've covered so far in the series, and it's a huge advantage that it has over a lot of its competition, especially when you're looking at its tier that's usually going to be in. Usually tier 2, probably in tier 3 in most drafts, so because of that you're getting some value from it as well, and you get a really broken, powerful Gmax Mon, just not as broken as a lot of the other ones, but we'll get into that a bit later. For now, looking at its stats, it's got 130 in its attack. That's incredible. Is there anything else that kind of compares to that? And like, are there any stats that you want to just speak about quickly before we move on to something else?
Not really, because everything else is kind of mediocre. But I would say like the bulk is nice, just because as a Gmax with the double HP, you know, it makes it a lot bulkier than it would normally be, and it has some decent defensive stats to begin with. So
yeah, 90 HP. 80 defense, 85 special defense, gets the job done. When you get that Gigantamax, it really shines and shows how bulky this thing can be. I find that if you pair with an Assault Vest, it becomes an incredibly powerful mon. It dishes out damage, takes it extremely well, and it's really hard to take down, especially once you have that Gmax going. Were there any items other than the Assault Vest that you looked at and said, you know what, this is a good item on Machamp?
So Assault Vest was definitely the first one I put down, just because of all the coverage and really helpful for taking on those special moves. But also Flame Orb, to pair with Guts, and Scope Lens, which you can pair with the GMAX Chi Strike.
Chi Strike boosts your crit ratio by one stage. Scope Lens does the same thing. I believe once you have a Scope Lens and a +1 boost from a Focus Energy or a Chi Strike, it's a guaranteed critical hit, which is absolutely terrifying. You guys have seen what I've done with Inteleon in the IBL, and that's because we can crit everything. Machamp is in a similar position because of Scope Lens and Chi Strike. You mentioned it a bit with Guts, but it also gets No Guard. If you're running Gmax Machamp, do you think No Guard really has a place, or is it just going to be like, I'm only running No Guard if I feel like there's no real chance of me getting status this time around?
Yeah, so I put down in my notes here, I mean, it gets, Guts, No Guard, Steadfast as its 3 abilities, but I said, No Guard and Steadfast, if it's your Gmax, usually aren't going to be used as much, just because, you can't miss moves while you're Gmaxed, and then you can't get flinched either. Guts is really the only viable one while it's Gmaxed, but No Guard, I guess you could run if you thought you weren't going to be Gmaxed for most of the game or something, but in general, Guts is always going to be the way to go.
Completely agree. No Guard is great for moves like Dynamic Punch and Stone Edge, but that's pretty much it, and there's really not much else you want to run. Obviously, Machamp is not the greatest Gmax Pokemon in the world. If it was, I probably would have covered it a little bit sooner, I'm not going to lie, but it does need help, and because of that, we have to pair it with some partners. What are some Pokemon that you're looking at pairing with Gmax Machamp when you're trying to make it be the best Gmax Machamp it could possibly be?
Yeah, so I was definitely looking at Steel types, because they cover the 3 weaknesses of Machamp, Fairy, Psychic, and Flying. So on the offensive end, I had Aegislash, which is a mon that I personally really love, and it takes on the Psychic and Fairies really well. And then defensively, I had, Aegislash works defensively as well, but I also had Skarmory, because, it has that reliable recovery and roost, and can also set up spikes, which, spikes and rocks, which really help out Machamp.
I completely agree. I think Steel types really are terribly underrated when it comes to Machamp. Corviknight, I think it's slightly better than Skarmory for different reasons, but I see the appeal of Skarmory because of Spikes and Stealth Rocks. But I love having momentum, especially with Machamp. That's going to go into my favorite things to pair with Machamp. That's going to be Pokemon that are fast, like pretty fast, and have momentum because they are terrifying wall breaker, something like an Obstagoon or a Cinderace or a Dragapult, because they provide a ton of momentum, force a ton of switches, and then it allows you to bring in Machamp for free, pop your Flame Orb if it's off of a U-turn or a Parting Shot or a Volt Switch or something along those lines, and then you can just go in, especially on those Mons, on those walls that are really going to be not appreciating any hit from Machamp, whether it's in its Gigantamax form or in its base form.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Getting the momentum into just such a scary threat is always great.
In terms of that though, I mean, we've covered basically everything now. We've covered items, we've covered Movepool, we've covered partners. I think the only thing left is to cover where we would place it in terms of its competition in the meta. So we'll give it a ranking from 1 to 10, 10 being the absolute best. Rob, where would you have it 1 to 10?
I think I would put it at about a 7. If this thing got max airstream, I think it would be at least an 8. But unfortunately, its speed does kind of hold it back in its GMAX form. But other than that, I mean, it's a very solid GMAX. It hits hard. It's good coverage.
Since revamping the series and starting it back up again, I have been 4 for 4 on these rankings. 7 on 10 is my selection as well. Honestly, I kind of fell in love with regular Machamp through the season of the IBL. You've seen it almost firsthand, and it's just been a ton of fun to use. GMAX Machamp, I think, has some struggles. It's a very good mon. The only issue is it does have a lot of problems. You mentioned the poor speed. That's a big issue. And I feel like there's also a lot of setup it requires to be like a sweeper. I think it's a GMAX that will be used to break an opponent's team, and then you come in and sweep later on. But the problem with that is if your opponent can beat your GMAX or outlast your GMAX without burning theirs, they get put into a huge advantage compared to you, and that's definitely a big problem with GMAX Machamp.
Yeah, for sure.
Was there anything else you want to cover about GMAX Machamp, or was that it?
I think that's about it.
Awesome. Well, you guys have heard what we think. Now I want to hear from you. Make sure to leave a comment about what you think about GMAX Machamp and what partners you would want to pair with it. We're an awesome community over here, so your answer just might help someone in their next draft. If you guys want to learn more about other GMAX Pokemon, feel free to check out the other videos in the series. There's a playlist in the description and in the cards. If this is the first time you've seen one of my videos by chance, consider subscribing, especially if you like competitive Pokemon content. And of course, don't forget to like the video as well. The next video will be out real soon, and you never know who'll be joining us. Thanks for joining me today, Rob. Why don't you let everyone know what you got planned?
You guys can check out my YouTube channel, I suppose. I don't upload too often, but I do appreciate support over there. And join the ocean. Join the ocean. Thank you. I do want to say before we go, Rob has been an immense help to me and to my server and everything. Without him, we don't have the kind of success that we have. So I really would appreciate you guys showing him some love down in the comments on his channel as well. Everything's linked down there. So just go and check him out. He's an awesome guy. So thank you to you personally. I really appreciate it. And it's good to have you on the channel once again. I think this is the second time now we've done it, right? I believe so, yes.
Yeah. Everything is in the description. Make sure to check it out. Appreciate you guys for watching the video. Thank you all for your support. And I will catch you guys all next time.